When I first held my daughter in my arms, I thought my life had finally begun. Everything about those early years was chaotic and exhausting, but I thrived on it. Diaper changes at 3 a.m., sippy cups rolling under the couch, school projects due the next morning. It all made me feel needed. I wasn't just a woman anymore. I was mom, and that role consumed me completely. My husband Dan used to joke that the kids were my oxygen. He wasn't wrong. From the time our son and daughter were born until the day they left for college, my entire identity was wrapped around being their mother. I told myself I was balancing everything: wife, homemaker, part-time bookkeeper. But in truth, Dan came second, maybe even third after the kids in the house. It's strange looking back now, realizing how many times he tried to tell me. He'd ask me to go on weekend trips with him, just the two of us. I always said no because it was too hard to leave the kids. He suggested date nights, and I brushed it off because we were both tired. He told me more than once that he felt like we were roommates. I thought he was being dramatic. Didn't he understand that family life was supposed to come first? I didn't see what was coming until it was too late. When our youngest, Emily, left for college, the house felt like a stranger's home. For the first time in over 20 years, no one was shouting down the stairs about a lost shoe. No one needed me to sign a permission slip or make a dentist appointment. No one even needed me to make dinner, really. I had thought I'd enjoy it. I imagined Dan and I would finally reconnect, travel, maybe find hobbies together. But instead, the silence was suffocating. Dan and I would sit at the dinner table and barely say a word. He seemed restless, scrolling his phone or retreating to the garage. I hovered in the kitchen, wandering around like a ghost. The thing was, I didn't know who I was without being mom. The kids would call occasionally, but they were busy with classes, new friends, their own lives. When I hung up, the emptiness inside me deepened. I'd look at Dan and feel like I was staring at a stranger. And that's when he told me. It was a Friday evening, and I had made spaghetti because I didn't know what else to do. Dan sat across from me, twirling his fork absent-mindedly. His face was pale, his jaw tight. I knew something was wrong before he even spoke. "I can't do this anymore," he said, voice low but steady. I laughed, confused. "Can't do what?" "Eat spaghetti?" He set his fork down. "This. U.S., living like this. I feel like I've been waiting for years for you to see me again, and you never did. And now the kids are gone, and I realize there's nothing left here for me." I felt my stomach drop. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want a divorce." The words hung in the air like smoke, choking me. I shook my head. No, you don't mean that. You're just struggling with the empty nest. Like me. We'll figure it out." He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize anymore. Sad, but firm. I've been figuring it out for 20 years. I kept telling myself it would get better when the kids were older, that you'd have more time for me. But nothing changed. And now I don't want to spend the next 20 years feeling invisible. Invisible. That word pierced me like a blade. The divorce was quick. Dan didn't fight me for the house. He said he didn't want it. He moved into an apartment downtown, and just like that, my husband of 25 years was gone. The kids were furious with him at first. Emily called him selfish. Our son refused to answer his texts. I tried not to influence them, but secretly I agreed. How could he walk away now after everything we'd built? But the longer I sat in that quiet house, the more cracks in my anger began to show. I started replaying old conversations, old arguments. The times he asked me to watch a movie with him, and I said I was too busy folding laundry. The times he tried to kiss me, and I pulled away because the kids might see. The vacations I refused because I couldn't imagine leaving them with a babysitter. I thought I was being a good mother. And I was, but I wasn't being a good wife. That realization hurt worse than the divorce papers. In the months after Dan left, I tried to throw myself into distractions. I joined a yoga class, volunteered at the library, even took a painting workshop. But everything felt like a performance. like I was trying on costumes, pretending to be a woman who had it together. At night, I'd scroll through old family photos, the kids in Halloween costumes, Dan with his arm around me at the beach, birthday parties where I was too busy cutting cake to notice the way he looked at me. Sometimes I'd cry so hard I had to bury my face in a pillow so the neighbors wouldn't hear. And then came the day Emily called to tell me Dad had a girlfriend. She said it casually, like she was testing me. So, Dad brought someone to lunch today. Her name's Claire. I felt the blood drain from my face. Already? It's only been 6 months. Mom? Emily's voice softened. He seems happy. Happier than I've seen him in a long time. I forced a laugh. Well, good for him. But that night I fell apart. He had moved on. Not just moved out, but truly moved on. While I was still wandering through the ruins of our marriage, he had found someone new to build with. I started stalking her social media. Claire. She was younger than me, of course. Slim, blonde, with bright eyes that crinkled when she smiled. She posted pictures of wine tastings, concerts, hiking trips, things Dan used to beg me to do with him. I hated her, and I hated myself for understanding why he loved her. At first, the kids sided with me. They called more often, checked in, invited me to visit their campuses. But over time, their anger toward Dan softened. They started accepting his invitations, meeting Claire, even liking her. The first time my son told me Claire was actually really nice, I hung up the phone and sobbed until I thought I would break in half. It felt like losing him all over again. Not just as a husband, but as the father I thought my kids would always choose to stand with me against. But of course, that wasn't fair to them. Dan was still their dad. They deserved to have a relationship with him. I knew that logically, but my heart raged against it anyway. It's been 3 years now. 3 years since Dan walked out of that house and left me with the silence. The divorce is finalized, the kids are grown, and I'm still here, in the same house, rattling around like a ghost in a shell that doesn't fit anymore. I've dated here and there, but nothing sticks. I can't seem to let go of Dan completely, no matter how much I tell myself I need to. I compare every man to him, every date to the life we once had, and they always come up short. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I wonder what would have happened if I had said yes to those trips, if I had made him a priority sooner, if I had looked at him the way I looked at the kids, like he was my whole world. Maybe we'd still be married. Maybe we'd be traveling together right now, holding hands in some little cafe in Italy. Or maybe not. I'll never know. All I know is that I built my entire life around being a mother, and when that role ended, I had nothing left to give. Dan wanted a wife, a partner. I wanted to stay a mom forever. And in the end, we both lost. People tell you about the empty nest, how hard it is to adjust when the kids leave. But no one warns you about what happens to your marriage if you don't nurture it along the way. I thought love was just showing up, paying the bills, raising the kids. I thought Dan would always be there, waiting patiently in the background. But love doesn't work like that. And now I'm the one left waiting, staring at a life that feels empty, wishing I could go back and do it differently. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone still raising kids, it would be this. Don't forget about each other. Because one day the house will be quiet. And if you haven't kept your marriage alive, you'll realize too late that you don't recognize the person sitting across the table. I learned that lesson the hardest way possible, and I live with it every single day.